Good evening. Thank you all for sticking around. I'm Jacqueline Coley, awards editor at Rotten Tomatoes, and I'm very excited to welcome to the stage the lead actor of the film you just watched, Mr. Jeremy Allen White. This is primarily a room full of actors, so that was very much deserved. Jeremy, I want to start with, basically, you've already done a ton of press around the film. It's already out in theaters, but more importantly, I think you've talked a little bit about your journey to Bruce. I'd be curious for you, when you were having the man himself on set, and you're having this very intense thing of like, this is Bruce Springsteen, and people have built their entire life around the songs that he's written. How did you keep it, you, the actor, the scene, and the dialogue? How did you keep it that small?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the short answer is, I think, you know, I'm gonna make it long.
It's your time.
So when I got started, like it was all, I was trying to learn as much as I could about Bruce. I was taking in these like large ideas, the scale of his music, the scale of him as a performer and an icon, and then, you know, as I got closer to filming, everything got a little bit more focused, and then, you know, when I was there, it was hard, and I've spoken about this, especially in those first couple of weeks, to have Bruce so close, just because I was more self-aware than I had ever been before. And I probably would have been more self-aware regardless, because I was portraying somebody who is so kind of well-known. But I think what happened and what happens always is you just go back to what you know and the process that you have, and I think I could always find like comfort in that process of just making things very simple for myself, trying to be honest and in the moment and understand the environment, and that felt like a hideaway from, I guess, the pressures of performing as Bruce and then performing as Bruce in front of Bruce.
Say that again. I don't know how you did that. I don't know how you were just in the room with him like, hey Bruce. I'd be like, Mr. Springsteen, sir, and thank you.
You know, I was lucky we'd spent a fair amount of time prior to filming, and I thought that was all the time that we were gonna sort of have together. It really, you know, we thought Bruce might stop by every once in a while, and you know, I've talked about this a little bit, but it really was something that he came around on the first day, and I thought that was kind of for him to give us his kind of blessing, and then maybe we'd see him in a couple weeks. But he kept showing up, and I think it was something he enjoyed. You know, I think he enjoyed the process. He loves film, and he's a big fan of Scott Cooper's, our director. And I think he was really interested and curious about the process. And then I think especially in some of those sequences and scenes with the young Bruce, and Stephen Graham and Gabby Hoffman, and in the home that Bruce grew up in, and how Stefania, our production designer, recreated that, he was just, he was really taken, I think, with the process, and really wanted to be around. And I feel, you know, lucky for that.
I mean, and also I think we're lucky to enjoy the work that you did with it, and it's built of so many interesting choices. I think nothing against performances that don't employ the vocal work of the actor, but that is a choice that you make early on, and it is a difficult commitment for a lot of people. When did y'all make that decision, and was there at any point that you wish that you had made a different one?
You mean in the speech?
Or to sing it, to do the affectation, to really embody him tonally as well as in the body and in the words and what he did?
I think that happens, you know, over the process of, you know, I had about 6 months of preparation, and Scott had always said, you know, I want you to sing these songs, and I want us to hear you sing them. I think it's important, you know. Whether you sound just like him or not, it's important that the audience is hearing you. But he said there was always going to be a safety net in place. You know, we can figure it out. And I think going on that journey of, first of all, just trying to sing and sound like I knew how to sing, and then eventually trying to sound like Bruce Springsteen, I found a little bit of confidence through that process, and I had the time, and I had great teachers. And then his sort of like, his voice, I was really nervous about it. We were building up, and I had sent kind of Scott voice memos and stuff like that, and we tried things out and tried different degrees of that, and then I recorded Born in the USA like a week before we went into production, and I sang that song for 2 hours, and I really hurt myself. I lost my voice entirely, and they were really concerned about being able to start filming when we needed to start filming, and my voice slowly started to come back, and I loved the way it sounded when it started to come back, and I sounded just like Bruce. And I remember this kind of like half-lost voice and this like gravelly tone. I recorded on my phone over and over and over again, and then my voice started coming back, and my voice started getting clearer, and I went, oh no, oh no, and I'd start screaming into pillows and kind of like yelling at walls, and I did that for a while, recording everything still, and then I talked to Eric Vitro, who was my vocal coach for the singing. Yes, yeah, incredible teacher, and I told him I'd been screaming into pillows, and he said, you have to stop. But that's where I kind of found it. And then Bruce even, I mean, this just like speaks to his character in such an amazing way. I asked him, would you mind just recording, just no emotion, just recording one scene with your mom, one scene with John Landau, and I think I asked for one scene with your dad, and I just want to hear your voice reading those scenes, if that's okay, if you have time, if that's, in any way of interest to you. And he went to his recording studio and sent me like 5 or 6 scenes that he recorded at his home, and so I had those in my ear all the time, and a lot of videos, or not a lot of videos, but there were a couple of videos of him right around 1980, 1979, some interviews that I would listen to a lot.
I'm glad you brought up Eric Vitro, because I just have to do this. I was getting ready for this interview, and I'm reading the production notes. I'm like, there's that dude's name again. Okay, so it's like everyone. It's Austin Butler, it's Timothy Chalamet, it's Ariana Grande, it was Zoe Saldana for Amelia Perez. It's like, if you sang on screen, this man. So I just now have to ask, after hearing his name and all of these Q&As over and over, what does he do? Like, what is the, because everybody has to work with him, and I don't think it's just he's the first call. I think he's kind of maybe the only call when you're asked to do something like this.
No, I think you're absolutely right. He's magic, and he's like, before he started working with actors, he works with real singers. So I think what he does with them, I don't know. But what he does with me and for these folks that are, preparing to do movies like this, I think he just really gives us confidence, or gives me confidence. I remember, I'm friends with some people who are singers who have worked with him, and I was going in to meet him for the first time, and I was asking them for advice, and I was telling them, I'm really nervous. I've never sang in front of anybody really before, and what if I just can't do it, and I'm gonna see in his eyes, he knows I can't do it, and this is a waste of time, and they said, he just looks at you like an instrument. There's no judgment. He's gonna see what your vocals can do, and then he's gonna see what he can do to them. So there's no judgment. It's just like capability and stretching. And that's what it was. So it was like this very gradual kind of strengthening, conditioning, and really confidence that he gave me. And then and then just his knowledge of music and like songwriting and storytelling. I think in the beginning, when I started singing with him, I was so concerned with sounding good or sounding like Bruce. And my first instinct as an actor should have been, you know, well, what are we singing about? What's going on with Bruce at this time? How can I make this honest? But that wasn't where my head was at, because I was just so concerned with sort of the end idea, you know, the result. And he was a great help, I think, in finding the truth in these songs before we even got to, you know, how can we sound a bit more nasally here, and how can we find some gravel here, and all those ideas.
Another thing that's sort of integral to your performance, I feel, is the stature of Bruce, especially because now, as the film and the books and as Bruce later in life has illuminated, the way that he sort of held himself was based on the illnesses that he was battling at the time. I'm curious how you worked with the physical embodiment of that, especially that turn from basically him off stage to him on stage.
Yeah. I mean, you know, there's a tremendous amount of footage, obviously, of Bruce on stage, and he's got such confidence and openness. You know, when he's on stage, I think that's when he feels most present and true. So I knew what I had to do for those moments, and I had a lot of footage to kind of watch, and then yeah, trying to play him in the many moments, you know, in this film, off stage. Yeah, I just tried to think a lot about how uncomfortable he was in his own skin, and how dishonest he felt, and I think most of all, I felt about his sort of instinct to hide away or be alone. So even when he was with Faye, or when he was with John, I had this idea of kind of like 1 foot in and 1 foot out all the time. Like at any moment he could just kind of like step up and walk away, and then this idea of kind of like, you know, just hunched over and hidden. I think it was this period where he was having a really difficult time understanding himself, and I think there was a lot of shame going on, and so there was this idea, I think, of just trying to remain hidden and insecure, versus the very kind of like confident and strong version of Bruce that you see, you know, on stage.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting now looking back on it. I did not have as much of a working knowledge of Bruce Springsteen out of, like, I would say some of his hits and not necessarily albums like Nebraska. But one thing I thought was so interesting watching this film is, like, before that, him in his leather jacket, it was like a symbol of stoicism, and now I'm looking at it like, I mean, not to be to infantilize him, but like a safety blanket. You know what I mean? And so it was interesting how you sort of like played that. The other thing that I think just adds to what you and Scott and everyone did in this is the cast. And is Francine?
Francine Maisler.
Yeah, who cast this one. I mean, Odessa.
Yes.
Finding you, which we won't bring you into how they found you and all that, but also Stephen Graham, to your point, and Jeremy Strong, to know that he could play Landau, who was, I think, just as difficult a casting as you. I'd be curious for you to talk about the ensemble and some of your favorite scenes with those scene partners.
I mean, almost every scene I shared with those guys, I loved. I mean, I'd wanted to work with Jeremy for a very long time. We had sent kind of like emails to one another over the years, hoping that we could find something to do together, and I'm so glad that this was the thing. I mean, I'm such an admirer of Jeremy's process and dedication, and I feel so lucky that this was the thing about, you know, one of the strongest and most interesting sort of ideas in this film is the relationship between Bruce Springsteen and John Landau. They have this kind of love and mutual respect for one another. There's this brotherhood that's usually reserved for like a war film or something like that, but they're so reliant, and to feel that, you know, with Jeremy and work with Jeremy in those scenes felt so wonderful. And then Stephen Graham, I've loved since I was 16. I saw him in This Is England, and I was just like, who is this guy? And then he's obviously worked with every great director over the past couple decades. but he's so incredibly grounded. That scene towards the end of the film where is something that really happened, you know, when Bruce walks in and sits on his father's lap. But I remember reading that scene on the page and being really concerned that people, you know, they wouldn't think that was something that really happened, or it was so uncomfortable and awkward that people would laugh at it, or like, how can we possibly make this feel like true and grounded? Because it is a ridiculous kind of thing on paper that you're seeing, and to have, you know, Stephen in that moment, I felt so lucky to have him help me to kind of like ground it in some reality. And Odessa, I felt so lucky. She makes everything look so, she has such an ease in all of her performances, but especially in this. And I think because of where Bruce was during this time and my own kind of process, I was kind of, you know, staring at the ground a lot of the time, you know, in between takes and probably taking it all too seriously at times. And Odessa wouldn't allow that. And Faye wouldn't allow that from Bruce. I think she was kind of this mirror up to Bruce. He was so within himself, and the few times that you see him kind of manage some real presence with someone else is with Faye. And I think we were able to kind of find those moments because of how wonderful and like alive Odessa is as a performer.
The script for this one is one where you're having to adapt it from a book, and really it's not what you would consider a typical biopic because it's such a short period of time within Bruce's life. But I know that there's a lot of richness that you could put into the screenplay to sort of fill out other aspects of that. I'd be curious if there was an aspect to Bruce's performance that maybe wasn't seen in the dialogue, that was a part of the script that you kind of kept either a description of how he sort of acted, or, you know, I love those nonverbal dialogue things that you actors are sort of putting into it without it being said.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I remember reading, it's such an important part in the book, and again, one of the things that interested me most about this film in particular is you're being invited into the creative process in this really wonderful way. And there's such great detail taken, you know, in the book, Deliver Me From Nowhere, that Warren wrote. But I remember being so kind of nervous about how that was going to translate onto screen. Like, how is sort of like reading Flannery O'Connor, watching I watched Badlands for like 3 days, and I was like, is this good? Like, is it good to watch someone searching for inspiration for so long? And I think, you know, you do, and Scott and I did, like, you still need to find sort of the beginning, middle, and ends, and stretch these moments out. You know, on the page, it's, you know, Bruce sits on the couch and watches Badlands, and so all the work that goes into that, and you think, how do you make this thing, you know, captivating and interesting? You know, that's all really like work that Scott and I got to explore with, I guess. Yeah.
That's fair. It's a long script. I didn't want you to like specific words, but I would say your performance is delicate in those moments. But then you go on stage and it's like, this is Rockstar Cirque du Soleil. This is different. This is. I know that we're doing Nebraska, and that's supposed to be like his quieter album, but the movie ain't like that. So, how much of a rock star did they actually make you? Tell me about the audience, tell me about the setup, and then like the first day you're stepping on the first Bruce big stage.
Yeah, I mean, they did me a favor. They scheduled a lot of that stuff towards the end of the film, because I was still trying to get comfortable holding a guitar throughout the process of filming. But I think one of the biggest days, and you know, as an actor, you kind of get the schedule and you have your calendar and you have those couple days marked where you're like, oh, these are going to be heavy. And the day, I filmed just about everything for the Stone Pony in one day. And I felt so nervous on that day because several reasons. I had to perform for so many people for so long. I knew Bruce was going to be there that day, as he had been for a while. He was going to bring Patty, his kids. He told me, I think I'm going to bring a friend on this day to the Stone Pony. Is that okay with you? And I was like, yeah, of course, yeah, bring your friend. And it was Steven Spielberg. So I was like, I was getting ready that morning. I was already kind of all in my head, and then I remember our base camp PA came up and she was like, "Did you see Spielberg over there?" And I was like, "What?" She was like, "Yeah, he's just like hanging around." So that added a little bit of pressure to the day. But all good stuff, like really. I mean, I was like spinning, obviously, but all that stuff really does kind of like, I don't know, they ground you in kind of a crazy way because you have to, you know? And then I remember performing in that room and, you know, we were shooting in New Jersey. A lot of the background actors were from New Jersey. A lot of the background actors love Bruce so much. This is a venue that Bruce has performed at for a long time, continues to perform at. And it's like a 400 cap room. So we were able to fill it entirely, you know? And Bruce came out on stage and introduced me as Bruce to come out to the crowd. So he got them so warmed up for me. And then when the music was on, it was really, you know, it was a lot of handheld. We would perform the song from beginning to end. So it was really the perfect environment to really get lost and forget for a moment that you're just pretending. And those actors were so strong and like so on fire and excited, mostly because Bruce was there and Steven Spielberg were there, but I was there too. That I was really feeling it, you know. I was feeling very strong, and they were giving me strength. And I was on stage with real musicians. The environment was entirely real. I was the only pretender, and I think that allowed me to do my best pretending. Yeah.
I mean, tell it to the screen. I don't know about pretending. We don't have that much longer, but this is a captive room full of mostly actors. And well, first ask, what was the age of your first credit, if you don't mind me asking? Because you were pretty young, but not...
Maybe 14?
But you were a child actor. I was like, I didn't want to say for sure. I was like, I think he was like a teenager, but don't quote me on that, because people are 27 playing 12. But
yeah.
They are. But you've been doing this for a while.
Yes.
And I think everyone in this audience, no matter where they are in their career, they would look at where you've been in the past 5 years and say, that is exactly what I would want to do. But this was a very later chapter for you. So what would you say is the best advice for folks, whether they're in that moment, want to be in that moment, what to do once they get in that moment?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so many things that go into it. I think, you know, at a very young age, I felt lucky to surround myself with people I admired a lot, and I loved their taste, and that really helped me find my taste. I worked in a casting office at Susan Shotmaker Casting in New York for all of my teen years. And I did, one of my first films was a movie called After School. And this director, Antonio Campos, directed it. Sean Durkin produced it. Josh Mond produced it. They had a film company, Borderline Films. And I just stayed around them. And I wouldn't take no for an answer. You know, they started working out of Susan's, so I started working out of Susan's. I just wanted to be around them all the time. And that's continued to be the case. You know, when I find an opportunity to be close to these people that I admire and that I feel like I can learn something from, I don't take no for an answer. You know, I want to be around them all the time. I want to learn all the time. And then, you know, I've been very lucky to, you know, to be in front of these people, I think, and to take them in. But yeah, when you find those people you admire, when you find those people whose styles that you like, and you have an opportunity to be near them, take it, you know.
That's great. Thank you for saying that. I think a lot of actors talk about how, for most of the time, you leave a lot of the things that you do in a role. They're not going to stay with you, but there's things that you want to keep with them. What is the thing that you most want to keep from this Bruce Springsteen journey? And which thing would you maybe want to leave on the celluloid? Like maybe holding the guitar. I think that might be the one. I don't know. Maybe it's the same. I don't know. What is it? What was the part that you're like, I did it, but I don't want to do it again?
It's kind of the same thing for both. I've found, like, you know, there was such a tremendous amount of pressure I had put on myself in the preparation and the filming process, and that felt paralyzing at times, especially in the 6 months of preparation. I remember having these real moments of doubt. It felt like he was too like understood of a figure for me to like find a way in. And I think when I was done, I was like, I don't think I can play a real person. Again, it's just too much. My head got all messy, and the pressure was very intense. But what came from that pressure was a tremendous amount of focus and dedication. And so I look back on this time, and it really was difficult. I remember filming this movie, you know, what was going on with Bruce at that time, and trying to understand that, and trying to spend a lot of time alone, on my own, and learning these skills, and just trying to understand Bruce's headspace, and also do justice to, you know, to Bruce as a man. It was very difficult. I felt in great pain often while making this movie. So that is something that I don't want to feel that. I want to put that away. But what it forced me to do, I want to take with me, you know. I want to have the stakes always be that high, as if I am, you know, performing this character in front of the real person, whether they're real or not. Take it that seriously, the responsibility that you have. I think that's something I'd like to take going forward.
I think that's the best thing in the world. I want to make sure. I want to thank you so much, Jeremy, for your time. I want to thank all of you for watching, and you can vote for this man as well as the cast and all available sites.
Thank you guys.
Thank you all.
It's good, huh? Take a picture.